Hey everybody, Matt Monster here, doing a little patch 2.1 preview. Um, I'll do what they're kind of starting to lay out for patch 2.1 and give some of my impressions. Um, I don't know if there's a DNA or not on the test center or not, but I went through all the characters. I made tons of notes. They're changing almost by the hour, so it's really hard to say where everything is at right now. Um, some characters I'm happy, some characters I'm sad. Um, if Loki stands the way it is, people are going to be really upset. If Hulk stands the way it is, some people will be happy, some people are going to be upset. Thor, I think a lot of people are going to be upset. And then Storm and Iron Man, you guys are going to jump up and down for joy. I can't believe what they're doing there. But I'm not really going to go into the characters. What I am going to do is I am going to do new videos for all the characters because they've changed pretty dramatically, especially like Storm and like Iron Man. I mean, they've offered some strong builds, different choices and alternate routes. So there's a lot of talk with what they're doing now, which is time to kill and time to live. These are the new numbers that Gazillion are publishing as the numbers that they're trying to use as goals for all the characters to be within 20% of each other. Kind of a ridiculous notion to begin with, but you know, whatever. If that's their way of trying to normalize all the characters, so be it. You know, not a bad idea. So at least if you get a character, you know, you won't get totally, you know, messed over. Like if you got Daredevil right now, you'd feel pretty messed over. So the time to kill numbers are based on killing a new target dummy in the training room. And they're doing it with set gear, which is just flat gear with no bonuses or anything like that, and how long it actually takes to kill the dummy. And they're feeling that if everybody can kill that dummy within 20% of each other, they've done a good job of normalizing the numbers. I feel this is absolutely ridiculous because, well, nothing out there in the game stands still and does nothing back to you, for one. There are dummies that do things back to you. That's an interesting add-on. And, you know, nothing really stands still. It's a dummy. It just doesn't work. There's bosses like Curse that just does weird things to you. There's bosses like Rhino with one-shot kill mechanics, and you know how it works. So, you know, it's an interesting notion. I love target dummies for practicing and figuring out what you're doing and everything, but to actually set up a game and how it's going to work, I think that's a terrible idea. For testing a build and getting your rotation down, they're great. For deciding how to make a game function, they're terrible. Well, that's what time to kill is. Time to live, which is a kind of silly notion, is basically how much damage you can take and how long it takes you to go back to full health and your health recovery. And they're really messing with that. A lot of damage reductions have been changed. So I'm pretty sure it's just going to freeze frame this picture of Loki here. And when I go to the patch summary for the test center right now. So, you know, they got Ghost Rider coming out. I haven't really looked at him. I'm just going to see him firsthand, all his abilities and everything when they release. Because everything changes in the test center so much, I just don't rely on it. I went through and I've got 29 pages of notes and everything that I've written down, and they've already changed on some characters. From yesterday to today, they've already changed. So I just use them as guidelines. So when I do the videos, they should be about 15 to 20 minute videos. I got 20, 28, 30 videos to do. So, you know, that's going to be roughly 5 to 6 hours of video. It's going to take some time to put out. You know, I'm going to do them as I need. I'll do Ghost Rider first. A lot of the old builds will be somewhat feasible. You're going to see a lot of different changes that will be, you know, more applicable when the patch comes out, so you can make those changes on your own. You have a lot of free respecs. You can use them, you know. And then, like I said, I'm going to release them as I'm going to go by not necessarily character order or alphabetical order, but as dramatic change to the character has been done, and hopefully be able to get them out. And then I'm just going to do a green terminal, bum rush it, and just do a quick here's how it works, just so you can see how it works and what to expect from it. So what to expect is you will definitely be taking damage, and you'll definitely have to regenerate damage. But I'll get into that in a moment. First off, they got the hero synergy bonus for XP. That seems to be static. It's not changing. So that's a nice little thing. So every little level 60 that you have, you get extra XP for. Every level 50 you have, you get extra XP for. And every level 30 you have, you get a little extra XP for. So the more 60s you have, the more 50s you have, and the more 30s you have, you get bonus XP for all your characters. So you level them faster. That's very nice. And then, of course, they've done a power tuning. I'm not going to go into great detail over it, but basically they're setting up their system and dumbing down the way the system actually works, so they can just do slider bars on different power types and adjust the powers across the board, as well as by character, how much damage they do. And of course, like I said, they're going to be giving out free respecs and a couple extra retcons, so you can adjust your characters. They will do some unbindings, so you'll be able to unbind artifacts that don't work for your characters anymore. You'll be able to unbind legendaries. I'm pushing for selling back legendaries because some of them are going to be absolutely useless, and that's going to come up later. They're going to be doing a loot boost for 12 hours. That's pretty nice. I'm not sure how that's going to work. If that's just something you click and you have it for a certain time, you have to click it and use it within a certain time period, or if you just have it. They're planning on doing a revamp for the attribute system, but that's not in here yet. Damage power scaling with ranks and level. So damage with the power is going to scale with ranks. Every point you put in there, you get more damage from it. And every level you have, you get more damage from it as well. So you can put 1 point into a power and it still be somewhat useful, but with more points you put into it, it gets better and better. So that stays kind of the same. Power unlock levels. What they did is, or they're planning to do, is now when you get a skill, you'll be able to dump a certain amount of points into it. So if you get a skill at, say, level 27, and at level 27 you're able to put, say, 10 points into normally a skill, once you get at level 27, you'll be able to put 10 points into that skill and bring it up to every other level 27 skill. So if it was, level 1, you had 10 points into it. If it was level 27, you'd be able to put 10 points into it. Daughter's waking up. They say a complete tooltips pass, but they're still working out a lot of bugs. It's not a complete tooltip pass just yet. Damage multipliers and coefficients are gone. Damage multiplier is now the new king. Crit, dodge, defense, all other types of modifiers besides damage, completely nerfed. They've changed the bell curve, so supposedly if you've gotten tons and tons of gear and upped your numbers and say crit to the max, you can get well beyond what we currently could have. However, it's so hard to get there, you will never get there. So an idea currently, the way it is, I think 53% crit with Loki at level 60, and on test I am 29%. How happy am I? So all my crit gear, everything I got, my legendary, completely useless. Completely useless. Totally nerfed. Very, very unhappy. And that's what I mean. Some people are going to be very unhappy if we don't get refunds and stuff to re-gear for a complete system change. Highly suggest Gazillion gets on board and does just a refund. It can't be that hard to code in. Right-click to sell to vendor and get 300 marks back and buy the right item. Or put a recipe in the crafting system. They've only done it several hundred times already. And the only thing that really does stand to work out is damage multiplier. 800 damage rating equals about 25% extra damage. So that's pretty fat. And that's just across the board. It goes for everything. It's not, there's no coefficients anymore. If you get 25% extra damage on a skill, it's 25% extra damage. Pretty nice that way. Another sad thing, all flavor in the game is basically getting removed. And what I mean by that is dodge, by the way, doesn't remove all damage. It only neglects 50% of incoming damage. So if you dodge, you don't negate all the damage. You only negate 50% of the incoming damage. That's a partial dodge. They're also removing vulnerability and weaken effects. So instead of making something do less damage or take more damage, they're all capped at 10%, and that's all they do is 10%. And once one effect is on, no other effect applies, so it doesn't stack. It's just on. And whatever has the longest effect has the longest effect. It applies. So say you're in a group of 5 and all 5 characters have a weaken. They deal 10% less damage. That's it. They just deal 10% damage. Even though all 5 characters are applying it, it's still only 10% less damage. So that kind of sucks. And if you have an ability, or not ability, item that applies it, it's still only 10%. It does not stack. Terrible. Flavor gone. No, you can't build for anything. All you're building for is damage, 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 and damage negation. And by what I mean by damage negation is hit point regeneration, and incoming hit point. Lifesteal completely nerfed yet again, because they say with the damage revamp coming through, they've lowered the damage of enemies are doing supposedly. So now lifesteal cores and all lifesteal effects have been greatly reduced. Oh, Jean Grey players, currently you're going to be very, 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 very sad when you see your Phoenix power, what it does now. They've been reduced anywhere from 300 to 100%. So you no longer steal 3% or 1%, you steal 0.1%, 0.3% of damage done at best. And some of them are getting removed completely and replaced with damage on, or health on damage. So you use a power, you get some health. It sucks. Completely terrible. So now health regen is going to be the new god yet again. Back in the defense review, I was saying hit point and health regen is the new god. Well, it's becoming more and more the new god again. Bonus damage to bosses, that's been revamped. They're kind of lowering the bonuses that you get to the bosses and just upping the damage to those abilities. That's kind of fine. That's probably a good change. Although, yet again, it's another flavor that's going away. You're just not able to build for anything anymore. You're not building for crit, you're not building for dodge, you're not building for defense. You can't avoid damage, you can't neglect damage. You just got to assume you're going to take damage and assume you have to replace damage. And you can't assume that you're going to do crits anymore. You can't plan on being able to say, okay, I'll just do less damage this way and make up for it by getting big number crits. And now you just do big number skills. It's kind of strange. Percent increase to ratings. They're all gone. Most of them anyways. Like defense multipliers, all those things are gone. They all come into a static number that applies to something. Movement speed has been increased for a lot of characters, especially ones without real movement powers. So you get to move a lot faster. Maximum health, a lot of characters have had their health boosted somewhat. That'll make them a lot better. Armor levels, they're boosting light armor heroes to medium armor levels. And again, the only reason I'm reading this is because they got it posted on the forums, so it's all been released. Rating-based systems and diminishing returns. This is what I was talking about, like the defense, the dodge, the critical, the brutal. Everything that is kind of flavorful has been weird. So for instance, this is they're saying the cap for dodge rating has been raised to 99%, up from 90%. Who do you know ever hit 90%? No one. And the cap for brutal rating has been raised to 75%, up from 50%. Note that as players get closer to the cap, they get they get fewer returns for each point, as all diminishing return systems operate. What they're not saying, though, is that the diminishing return has been boosted by at least double, and the bell curve for that to happen has been lowered dramatically. So instead of like the average crit being 25%, the average crit now is somewhere around 15%. And it's really hard to get up to around 30%. And now you're struggling to get to 50%. Multi-scaling. Some powers with multiple methods of scaling have been set to a fixed amount. That's probably a good idea because it's just all weird. Like the bouncing bolts, they just diminish after bounces. But they've upped the damage of those things, but they do reduce per hit 20%, which is fine because they've really boosted the damage. Situational damage bonuses, powers that require situations such as a buff or debuff, those have been boosted. Mitigation shields and dodge, that's the big thing. All things like, things granite defense, I think it was, which is like, absorb 50%, now only absorbs 25% because the mobs only do less damage, so they absorb less damage. Iron Man shield 25%, all those things. The good news on those is they last a lot longer because they only absorb so much damage. And dodge only reduces damage by 50% instead of 100. Some characters do have complete dodges, and projectile deflection does not count on this. It still deflects the whole projectile for some strange reason. Crowd control durations. They're trying to improve this, but I don't know, it still doesn't work. Like, they're doing something to the tenacity system, which is very strange. It used to be 1,000 tenacity was like complete immunity, and now it doesn't report right, so I don't know what's happening with it. But 500 tenacity is 0.1% immunity. So how that works, I really don't know. I don't think they got it implemented right. This patch was not thought thoroughly. There's a lot of people questioning like how different artifacts come through, how different equipment comes through, lots of different things, legendaries, legendary buffs. So many things were not thought through on what's happening that it's just being questioned. If you don't believe me, you can look on the forums. I mean, there's just pages upon pages of people going, what's going on with this, what's going on with that, why is it this way? Hero changes, massive amount of hero changes. I'm not going into them. They keep changing like by the hour, like I said. I will say though, the Emma change is nice. The Miss Marvel change, that's all I'll say. PvP, they're trying to make changes to make that more fair. Good luck. And they've added the Asgard. I haven't really played with that. I'm saving it for me to discover once it goes live. Don't want to ruin it. And that's really it. So right now, some characters are going to be awesome. Like Captain America, completely different. And, it's in a good way. Thor, completely different. Not sold that it's in a good way. Loki, completely different. Not sold it's in a good way. So, I was expecting no nerfs to happen with this patch. And currently, I think there's going to be some nerfs. Some unhappy people, some happy people. I'd have to say 80% are going to be happy, 20% are going to be sad. And we'll have to see what they're going to do for the people who got artifacts and legendaries that just aren't right for the characters. I know they got the free unbind artifacts, so that's probably really not a major issue, except for some people who really traded hard for certain artifacts and gave up a lot to get them, now aren't so useful. Like Loki players with their pet artifacts, which may not be so useful anymore, because the pets may not be as useful as what once was thought of, if it stays this way, which is why I'm sad, which is why I might just go back to Iron Man, because, well, every single skill got a massive damage increase, and every single skill of Loki's, except for a couple, got a massive damage decrease. And that's all I'm going to say. So, that's the 2.1 preview. I'll be doing more on individual characters tomorrow. And let's keep our fingers crossed that they do the right thing and keep everybody in line and do what they were originally supposed to do, which was bring everybody up to the top 5 and not knock the top 5 down to the bottom 5 to bring the bottom 5 up to the middle. Let's hope they do that. So, hope this helps you guys. Hope to see you guys tomorrow. And bear with me tomorrow. It's going to be a lot of videos. So, see you guys later.